Hello, this is Mayor Chris Bollwage, and welcome to another edition of Our City. If any of our residents would like to know what's going on in our community, you can visit any of our social media accounts or just call our public information office at 908-820-4124 for any upcoming events or questions that you may have. Tonight's show, I'm pleased to be joined by Mr. James Guerra, who is a Historical Society of Elizabeth, New Jersey trustee, and Dr. Linda Epps, Historical Society of Elizabeth, New Jersey, trustee.
Yes.
Linda, if I can call you Linda, how are you?
Please call me Linda. I am well, thank you.
Good.
Hope you are too.
I am. And Jim, good to see you again.
Likewise, Mayor. Good to see you.
So the opening question is always, welcome back. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And you want to go first, Linda?
Oh, why not?
Okay.
So, born and raised in Elizabeth. Lived here for my first 25 years. Married someone who took me to Newark. And that's where I've been since then.
Oh.
But went through Lafayette from kindergarten till 9th grade. And then, of course, Baton High School for my 3 years of high school. And am back in the city very often. Still have just a little family here. But still like some of the restaurants and places to go that I grew up with. And it will always be my town.
Well, we first met years ago. You reminded me of the story of growing up in Elizabeth when you were working in the state. Are you still there?
I am partially retired.
Partially.
Yeah, I used to be president and CEO of the New Jersey Historical Society. But I did partially retire in 2010. Now I basically do the same thing that I did for the New Jersey Historical Society, work with historic houses, cemeteries, buildings, do a lot of research for people. Just all things New Jersey history are me, and my company is called 1804 Consultants.
So is your doctorate in history?
My doctorate is in American Studies.
American Studies.
As is my undergraduate degree and my master's degree.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But there's a strong historical content to that
You're right.
curriculum, right?
You're right, but I concentrate more on the culture within the history and what makes us who we are and why we like what we like and dislike what we dislike. Should also add, let me give a plug to New Jersey schools. Rutgers, Seton Hall, and Drew trained. So
you got it all covered.
Yeah.
Jim, tell me about you. So you've been active in the city for years. So you still working?
Yes, I am.
All right, tell us about that.
I first came to Elizabeth in April of 1970. I've been through college, through the service, and then my first job was with Howard McMurray. He was on Morris Avenue next to Cummings Mercedes. And ironically, it was like I was walking in his footsteps. He'd gone to Pratt, he'd been an officer in the service, then became an architect, and it was pretty much the routine I took. So I guess it's over 50 some odd years I've been in town, so this is really has become my hometown. Because after I finished up where I was born in Hackensack and grew up there, went off to college and never really got back. I ended up college, service, and here. We've done a lot of Elizabeth projects, as you know. I've probably lost count, and I've always thought of taking a map of Elizabeth and putting all the pins in. And it was pretty dense, because there's hundreds and hundreds of projects we've done. And interestingly, we're now in a 1680s building, which is the Historical Society's building. And so there's lots of...
It's the Barnett House. Describe where it is.
It's on the 1045 East Jersey Street, and there's another historic house across the street. So there's lots of good memories over these hundreds of years that have happened there. And so I think the ghosts talk to us once in a while.
Well, Jim, you didn't do the architectural work on that building,
No,
right?
I wasn't around quite then. I'm starting to feel that old now.
Well, Jim, it's interesting that you're involved in the historical aspect of Elizabeth, because I first met your wife on the planning for the 200th anniversary of George Washington's visit.
That's correct.
In 1989, when he had lunch here in 1789.
Yep.
And your wife was instrumental. She might have been the chair of that committee, was she?
I think she was very active.
Very active in that committee, yeah.
And which was good because it kept her busy.
So Linda, this Elizabeth Forum,
Yes.
what is it and why is it conducted annually?
You can never know enough about this wonderful city. It's the first English-speaking settlement in New Jersey. And in many ways, I think what happened in Elizabeth shaped what New Jersey would become, even before it was the state of New Jersey. And the forums are important because it gives us, we can be assured that at least at some point during the year, we are going to take a very close look at what Elizabeth was, what it is now, and venture some guesses about what it might be 25, 30 years from now. And it's important to do that, especially for a city of this size, which it's not gigantic, but it's a very comfortable sized city that should evermore serve as a prominent place in the state of New Jersey.
Well, the fourth largest city, you want to guess what it's going to be like in 25 or 50 years?
I think it will be even denser than it is now. I hope that the kind of liveliness that we had on Broad Street will continue and even grow. I believe that that's going to happen, especially given the construction that's going on around here. I'd like to, and I think this will happen, that the seaport will remain as important as it is commercially, but will also grow into have more recreational opportunities for people. And if all that happened, I would be happy. I plan to be around in 25 years, so I plan to enjoy myself.
Not 50?
Maybe 50, but certainly 25. I have a new grandchild, and I want to
you
live
gotta stick
until he's
around.
25,
Okay.
yes.
So Jim, what's the title of this forum and what is your role in this forum?
All right, the title of this forum was Historical Intersections, essentially monuments, their design and their space, and their importance. So what we did, the Historical Society asked me if I would kind of put a PowerPoint presentation together, and all of us worked on that. And it was interesting because it was a learning process for us also. A lot of these monuments and memorials we take for granted, but in putting this together, we looked at the importance of the monuments and memorials is that we remember. It's a remembrance item, and so that not only for us, but for people who will come after us to find out what was important, what events were important, what people were important, and building monuments, memorials. I was curious to how far back they actually go, and I did a little homework. And the oldest one that they've documented is 9,600 years BC. Stonehenge is 2,200 years BC, and we know that's old, but imagine 9,600 years. So cultures have always...
There's a monument here?
No, this is worldwide.
Oh, worldwide.
That's in Turkey. But what it pointed out is that cultures have always built monuments or memorials to important things and important people that have happened as kind of a reverence to them and a reminder of them. And in our country, we've done that also. Some of our first monuments, actually the first monument declared by a president was Devil's Tower in Wyoming by Teddy Roosevelt. There was one monument before that, a small one that Congress had pointed out, which was a major general in the Revolutionary War. But modern, monuments can be big, like the Eiffel Tower, or a headstone to a parent or a loved one in a cemetery. They're all kind of there to remember them by. I remember when I was young, my parents always took me to the cemetery, their parents and cousins, etc. So in the program, we go over the importance of monuments, and then we did a little kind of an emphasis on two of them. One was the Statue of Liberty, and interesting, the Statue of Liberty, of course, came from France. And there was a politician in France that believed very strongly in liberty. and he was an anti-slavery of belief, and the sculptor who aligned with his beliefs is the one that actually designed the Statue of Liberty. And while they were designing it, they came here to New York. He took a trip and went into New York Harbor to see where he wanted to place this. And it was Bedloe's Island, which was a very small island. That's where the statue is. And he said, because all the ships coming in with the immigrants would see that. That would be the welcoming. And it's also, really, it's a 100-year anniversary of the Revolution. So that's a very important one. And of course, as he designed it and they built it, the arm, the head, these pieces were actually brought at different times here and to be exhibited, and then brought back. They assembled the whole thing, disassembled it, and brought it back and reconstructed it. So, and that's so close to us. It'd be great if the school kids could all at some point get out there. And right near that is Ellis Island. And Ellis Island is where many, I think it was 18 million people went through Ellis Island. And their hope was, imagine on the ships, would I pass muster? Would I be allowed in? And many were, and a few, of course, of health issues or other things, were not.
So they just turned around? If they weren't allowed in, were they just turned around?
Yes, it was.
Put it on a ship and said, go back?
Correct. Yes.
That's how it worked?
Yep, it was tough. And then another one we looked at was the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And this was a very interesting story because it was a competition that came out in like 1982, and there was about just under 1,500 people made submissions for it. There was a young girl in college in Yale. She was a senior, and one of her classmates gave her the rules for the competition, and she entered. And all the names, of course, they're hidden. So hers was selected and built. And her thinking was that she wanted a park within the park. They scoop out the earth in front of those two V-shaped walls. And just like the earth would heal, the memories of the losses would heal also. And the polished granite walls reflect the two other monuments there, the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Monument. If you catch those walls at a certain time of day, you can actually see them. And we put it in there so when the children see the PowerPoint presentation, they'll see that. And she has gone on to do very other important monuments. Yeah.
I think I read that story.
Yeah.
So Linda, tell us about the panelists.
Can I be excused and say one thing
Yeah,
first
you
about
say whatever you want.
Elizabeth? Okay.
It's kind of your show.
Well, one of the last projects that I worked on was a monument or a marker in our old First Church yard there.
Sure.
And it was a monument called the 313 Plus, and it's dedicated to the people who may have been enslaved or free, but they were of African descent that are buried in that cemetery and do not have.
It's our newest monument.
Yeah, that's our newest one. Well, I started the research on that probably somewhere around 2012. And it's taken years to finally find out all the information that we needed to find out, and are still in the process of raising money for it. But I felt it was an important project. There were a number of people who were interested who worked along with me on that. It was really a community effort, as you know, to get that built, and will hopefully forevermore stand in that cemetery as a tribute to those people who, again, we know they're there, but their names are just not published anyplace.
Well, some of the first names are.
Some of the first names are there, but they don't have gravestones.
No.
But we do have the names that we know. They are on that monument, but there are a few more than that are buried that we do not have names for.
Right. How did we come up with 313 plus?
This was looking.
We know of 313, right?
We know of maybe a little bit more than
No,
that.
okay.
Yeah. But this was going through church records. This was going through some of the farm records. Farmers kept very detailed logs, and many of them were members of that church, and it was going through their documents. They would keep track of the people that they owned, who lived, what age they were when they died. A great number of them were children. And you asked me before, why study these things? Looking through those names and looking through those logs, I know when influenza went through Elizabeth, because
Sure.
a family would lose 3 or 4 children within a matter of days, or older people in it. So the process of doing the research to build it taught us so much about life in 18th and 19th century
So
Elizabeth.
some of the, very few, have COL on it.
Yes.
Didn't know what that meant, but that meant colored.
It meant colored.
Right.
Yes, it meant colored. Some agriculturalists kept more detailed records than others. So for some, we do have age, we have their name, we have other children of, or descendants of. But most of them is just a listing of them, and the names that we know are included on the monument. And the plus is for those whose names we do not have, but we know that they're buried there.
And Pastor Lundy is active, and she's helping co-chair the
She is.
250th anniversary.
I did not know that
Elizabeth.
she was doing the 250th, but I am co-chairing one of the state 250th anniversary there.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, so this is what you do with American Studies. Students out there who might be watching this who wonder, because I was asked the question what are you going to do with American Studies? Well, this is what you do.
So who are the panelists and the
Oh, that's
preparation
right.
and research? How do we,
Well,
Jim? Jim's on the panel, right?
Jim's on the panel.
You are on the panel.
I'm on the panel. We have, well, Stan Yaron helped us out a bit.
He's on the panel?
He's on the panel. He does all the introductions and things there. And those are the people that I've met, yeah.
And the preparation and research is basically what you talked about, Jim?
Yeah, basically, we've researched, the meaning of mine. An interesting thing that I learned was the mixing, the monuments and memorials. So it was.
So are there Elizabeth monuments and memorials in your presentation as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm trying to think. No, they're not.
But it's national.
This is really international.
International.
That we've looked at, and the monuments can be both. A monument can be a monument and a memorial, whereas a memorial is not necessarily a monument. A monument is typically a structure of some kind, where memorials can be a structure, but it can be a book, it could be a day, Memorial Day. So that was the difference, the distinction that I learned myself, because I always kind of see them use In fact, if you go across the street in front of City Hall, I think there's both there. There's memorials there and there's monuments there.
True.
I was telling Jim when we were waiting outside that the wonderful Elizabeth Memorial Day Parade, which I came to every year as a child, the most moving part to me was when we stopped as a Girl Scout, I marched in several of them too, but when we stopped at Scott Park here right across the street and had the ceremony for the fallen people who were in the military, and I remember I would choke up every year, laying the wreath, hearing taps, and just remembering what people did in trying to defend our country. So they serve a very important role for years and years to come.
So as a student of American Studies, why is it important that the history of Elizabeth is consistently researched?
This is where New Jersey started. This is the genesis of what became New Jersey, and New Jersey's important role in the Revolutionary War, in business and industry. I mean, would this country be what it is today without Singer's sewing machine company here? So there are so many important things that happened here that shaped not only the culture of New Jersey, but the United States. The most important pivotal battles of the Revolutionary War were fought in New Jersey, one in Elizabeth, right? It's just key to who we are in, 2024. It's key to who and what we are today.
So Jim, Linda came up here. You had to get a passport to come in. Just kidding. Your thoughts on the history of Elizabeth, because you and your firm through the years have designed an awful lot of buildings here.
We've designed a lot of new ones, and we've renovated, repurposed a lot of them. Unfortunately, some remarkable ones have disappeared. I mean, that's typical as cities grow. So I've been working in Elizabeth, for over 54 years. And I've always enjoyed working here because it's very active, business-wise it's active. The schools, one of the first jobs I had in Howard McMurray's office was designing the four houses, the new high school that was done in the 70s. It was a brewery before that on that site.
It was Brights Brewery.
Correct. And so, so I've...
There's a big well under there, too.
Yes, yep. So I've enjoyed, that's why I'm still working. I enjoy coming to Elizabeth and working here, and many of the clients are friends.
We have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, I know you're cutting and splicing, so I can
No.
say, okay. As you know, I grew up in Elizabeth, right on Olive Street. And I think what has helped develop me as a person who's pretty well liked by most people
You
is,
sure that?
yes, is the diversity of my experience growing up here. That I grew up on a block that was Italian, was Polish, was Czech, was African. We learned, we were Catholic, we were Jewish, we were Baptist, we were Presbyterian. But we learned how to live together, how to like each other and live together. And I don't remember any particular strife happening during all the years that I lived on Olive Street. And Elizabeth is one of the few settlements that did not come with a very strict religious sect making the rules. It was really founded for prosperity and for as a place where people knew that they could work and develop and get ahead. And I think we've lost some of that, but I think that I was able to kind of have the growing up experience that I did because of what those early settlers did. They knew what they wanted to live a better life. And they were able to do that here no matter who and what they were, or what their ethnicity was, where their place of origin was.
I want to thank you for that sum up.
Yeah.
I think that was absolutely terrific.
Well, it's true.
Yeah. And Jim, thank you for joining us on the show as well. And we look forward to great success of this program.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. I want to thank Mr. Jim Guerra and Dr. Linda Epps from the Historical Society here in Elizabeth, New Jersey for joining us on the show, and appreciate all of you listening. We'll hope to see you next week on another edition of Our City.